بسم الله إن الحمد لله نستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Inshallah, I just want to give a small nasiha today, considering what we have seen in the dawah and the fitna that has been caused by various people. And I just want to give a small reminder, inshallah. So I want the Muslims to know that this religion was revealed as a guidance, a mercy and clarity, not as an endless battle of argumentation, debates, and personal rivalries. Islam was not spread by constant polemics, nor preserved by loud disputation, but by knowledge, wisdom, patience, and sincerity. Dawah is the foundation of spreading Islam. Debate is an exception. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the meaning of the ayah, this is in chapter 16, verse 125, where he mentions, "Call to the way of your Lord with wisdom and good instruction, and argue with them in a way that is best." Now, this ayah we quote often, but we also misunderstand it. Allah did not command us to argue in a way that is best in a constant fashion as a default. Rather, He commanded calling and only permitted argumentation with conditions, wisdom, good instruction, and the best of manners. When these are absent, argument becomes corruption, not da'wah. Allah warns us clearly in the meaning of the ayah in chapter 8, verse 46. "And do not dispute lest you lose courage and your strength depart." Many of the divisions that we have seen, the bitterness and the hostility, are the direct fruits of ignoring this command. The Salaf warned severely against argumentation, this constant argumentation. As Imam Malik mentioned, argumentation in the religion hardens the heart and breeds hatred. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah mentioned, "I never debated anyone except that I wished the truth would appear upon his tongue." And he also mentioned, whenever knowledge is raised through argumentation, it leaves the heart. And Imam Ahmad rahimahullah also mentioned, "Do not sit with the people of argumentation, even if they defend the Sunnah." So the Salaf understood very much the dangers of argumentation and what it could lead to. Rasul ﷺ himself warned of this, and he mentioned, and this is narrated in Abu Dawood, "I guarantee a house in the outskirts of paradise for the one who abandons argumentation even if he is correct." And this hadith demolishes the mindset of those obsessed with winning arguments. Even being right does not justify this habitual argumentation. But what comes of this as well? Because when you argue constantly and you seek to win these arguments, you can fall into something which is a major sin, and that is to speak without knowledge. One of the greatest calamities today is that people speak confidently without knowledge, and we are seeing this in some of the du'at. Wallahu musta'an. They quote half verses, they misunderstand a hadith, and they have second-hand refutations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the meaning of the ayah in Surah Al-Isra, chapter 17, verse 36, "And do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge." And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, "Say, my Lord has forbidden that which you say about Allah, what you do not know." Okay. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, "Whoever speaks about the Quran without knowledge, let him take his seat in the fire." And Ibn Sirin rahimullah mentioned, "This knowledge is religion. So look carefully from whom you take your religion." And unfortunately, the awam, the majority of the Muslims these days, unfortunately seek to take the religion from individuals who are merely du'at, We are not students of knowledge, nor are we scholars. And they seek to get fatwas from us. This is not correct. So, inshallah, keep that to those who are qualified to teach you your knowledge. False information, rushed refutations, and careless speech do not defend Islam. They misrepresent it. And these are the dangers. We do not want to misrepresent Islam because the disbelievers hold on to these misrepresentations and they say that this is what Islam teaches, when it is not. Another advice, inshallah, is regarding engaging with those who blaspheme and mock. This is not bravery. This is not something that we should encourage, because at the end of the day, Allah addressed this in the Quran, and He mentions in chapter 4, verse 140, in the meaning of the ayah, when you hear the verses of Allah denied and mocked, do not sit with them until they engage in another topic or in other speech. And He also mentions, and when the ignorant address them, they say peace. The Salaf did not chase every provocation. They understood that not every falsehood deserves a response, and not every platform deserves your presence. In fact, when it comes to those who mock Allah and His Messenger, we should starve them of our presence, starve them of our attention. Al-Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah mentioned, do not argue with a person of desire, for he will drag you into his desire. And the scholars refuted doubts. They did not refute personalities. When we look at the era of the great ulama, the likes of Ibn Taymiyyah, and when he wrote his book Majmu' al-Fatawa, he is responding, right? He's responding to people. And when he wrote his book Al-Jawab al-Sahih, he is responding to shubahat. Do we remember the names and the personalities of those who refuted? Absolutely not. The same with Imam al-Shafi'i. Do we see or remember the names of those who refuted? Absolutely not. Because they refuted the shubahat to guard the people from these doubts and not give any attention to those who cause doubt. It is from the methodology of Ahlul Sunnah that the ideas are addressed, but the egos of those who are enemies of Islam are not entertained. The scholars clarify errors, they dismantle doubts, and they protect the ummah without turning refutation into a spectacle. Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah mentioned, bid'ah is more beloved to shaitan than sin, because sin is repented from, but bid'ah is not. Yet even with this severity, the Salaf were cautious, measured and principled. Naming individuals was a last resort, not a hobby. And unfortunately, what happens when you engage in this is that the ego infiltrates and the love of status. One of the greatest dangers of the da'wah today has become about followings, platforms, who destroyed who, and applause and validation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, and they were not commanded except to worship Allah, sincere to Him in religion. This is our intention when we give da'wah, okay? And this is what it should be. And the Prophet ﷺ warned, the thing I fear most for you is minor shirk. They asked, what is minor shirk? He said, showing off. And unfortunately, sometimes this happens without even knowing it, because you have been sucked into this culture of debate and argumentation and refutation and engaging with those people. And subhanallah, a person may be defending the truth outwardly while inwardly he's actually defending his own image. Abdullah ibn Mubarak rahimahullah said, perhaps a small deed is made great by its intention, and perhaps a great deed is made small by its intention. So in conclusion, ya Muslimin, return da'wah to its rightful place, calling with wisdom, patience and sincerity. We do not need to speak about people's religions. We do not need to speak to them about their scriptures. We need to invite to the way of Allah with good wisdom, with good character, with good knowledge and good speech. And if they reject it, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, that upon us is only the conveying of the message. And if they refuse, to them is their religion and to us is ours. We measure the success, the du'at measure their success, not by victory in the debate, by obedience to Allah and the purity of their intention. So even for you, when you watch the da'wah, when you watch these videos, have your intention to learn something about your religion, and have your intention to learn how to give da'wah. Have your intention that you are watching this to please Allah so that you strengthen your own iman, and not for the sake of seeing a Muslim crush someone or win any sort of argument. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purify our hearts, restrain our tongues, grant us beneficial knowledge, and make us callers to the truth without ego, argumentation, or misguidance. A small nasiha, inshallah this resonates with you. وقل قولي هذا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.